I'm Drew Breezy, and this is the Comm Center. We're going to use our collective credible experience to bring you the first installment of a multi-part series of a fascinating case out of Clayton County, Georgia. It's the case of Hannah Payne, who was part of a traffic crash that turned into a man's last breath, and that was an injury from the crash. She was tried and convicted, and we'll play all the 911 calls from all the witnesses and from the defendant herself. Also in our series, we're going to talk about the role of courtroom testimony and demeanor. Was this an ingredient of a defund the police stew that made way for greater need for vigilante justice? Or was it just bad country cooking?
It's the Comm Center with Drew Breezy. Drew is our host. He's a former police officer, interrogator, dispatcher, deputy, leader, lieutenant, all of those things. Almost 29 years. And I'm Jon. I'm an active 911 dispatcher in the field. I've been doing that for just slightly over 9 years. I really have to commend you, Drew, for digging this up and bringing this to our attention because it's really a phenomenal one. And of course, I say that in a totally backhanded way because I'm the one that found the case.
Yes.
But this happened.
It may have been 2021 because the trial was in 2023.
We've got 4 911 calls on this. I have to say, listening to these, it sounds pretty routine, and then it goes to a pretty insane place. Obviously, if we're even talking about it in the context of vigilantism and defunding the police, what does it all mean? We'll kind of go through it step by step. So this is the first one. This is a 911 call made by one Hannah Payne. Hannah Payne is a motorist, just trying to make her way through this crazy world, trying to get from point A to point B without killing a guy. And she calls in and she reports a collision. I'll go ahead and play
it. Clayton County 911. What is the location of your emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I'm actually on Forest Parkway and Clark Howell Highway. And there was just an accident. I'm sure they've already called, but I just witnessed it, and I just wanted to make sure that I guess call the police as well in case they didn't.
What were the kind of vehicles involved?
It's a red Dodge pickup truck. I think it's a Dakota. And a semi was involved. And the red Dakota ran the red light and slammed into the side of the semi.
It doesn't look like we received any reports on it yet. I'll go ahead and put in a call here.
Okay.
Red Dakota. And were they on Forest Parkway or on Clark Howell?
The semi and I were turning left onto Forest Parkway, and the Dakota was going west on Forest Parkway.
Oh, okay. And what's your name?
My name is Hannah, Hannah. Last name is Payne, Payne.
And what's your callback number?
Redacted.
We appreciate you calling this in. We'll get someone out there and try to assist them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, so the audio, first of all, if you can't tell, it's all being played in the context of a courtroom. That was actually the best source for me to be able to find it. It does cause some audio issues with some of the 911 calls, but my first takes are this. Dispatcher doesn't know she's involved. She says, we'll see if we can get some people out there to help them. At no point does this caller say, I mean, the whole preface was, I'm sure other people have called this in, but I'm just calling to let you know as well that this happened. This is generally how non-involved passersby call in a collision. However, Hannah was involved. She doesn't report any damage to her vehicle. A 911 dispatcher, assuming she was involved, would ask her questions. Are you injured? Is anyone else there injured? This seems very, very routine. Hannah's very calm. Nothing unusual has happened so far. We are kind of misreading things that would turn out differently later, but that's just kind of how it goes on 911 calls. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but there's this crazy Pac-Man sound that I really hope is not their 911 sound, but it basically sounds anytime you stick a quarter into a coin-operated Pac-Man machine. That would drive me nuts if that was the 911 call. Drew, nothing really so much to say so far. I mean, this case is going to get wild, but so far it seems pretty tame, don't you think?
That's when you eat the super pill in Pac-Man. That's when you eat the large dot and the ghosts turn blue, so you can I guess they're ghosts and you can chase after them and eat them as Pac-Man.
His whole life was about those dots
or those ghosts or fruit. But at any rate, I like your observation because I'm telling you, I got hyper focused on the background noise, so I didn't realize I was associating it to a game room when I was a teenager, but there was a lot of activity in the back end. And so she was like, the dispatcher, the call taker was saying, well, we haven't really received anything yet, but the phones are going crazy in the background, it seems like. So maybe a lot of people are driving by and starting to pick up on what happened out there.
When you have a major incident and all of a sudden you have lots of 911 calls pouring in at the same time, and believe me, I have recent experience with this, you have to kind of say, like, does anyone have any more information? Does anyone have any more detailed stuff? Because a lot of people could drive past a car accident, right, and see like, oh, I see a semi and a red pickup truck, and that's really all they got. They have no information. So you kind of hope, hey, maybe the next caller is actually one of the people involved. Hannah, like I said, is someone involved, but we don't know that yet. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next 911 call, Drew. This is a witness to the crash. This one is a star 911 caller. I actually at one point had debated keeping all this out because, there's a lot of like extraneous information in here. But I think if our show is about presenting what 911 is, and in an ideal world of what 911 should be, I think this 911 call is possibly the most typical case of greatest 911 call ever, because we have someone stopping to get involved, which normally we're against, but it's only because people who stop and get involved don't know what to do. This guy, a former correctional officer named Terry Robinson, gets out of his vehicle at the scene of an emergency, and just like any correctional officer would, he takes command of an emergency situation. He's used to having a limited scope of authority, but still kind of telling people what the smart thing to do is, and he gets involved in this situation. So I'm going to play the 911 call from a witness, a passerby, someone who stopped to help one Terry Robinson. And his first one, like I said, he witnessed it. I stopped to check the well-being on the driver of the red pickup, which you may have heard Hannah say that the red pickup truck ran a red light, caused the accident. That's also very common on 911 calls, that someone will try to explain what occurred, even though a dispatcher will not be doing any citations or arrests. They try to get it all on the record right there. There's no serious injuries. However, the driver of the red pickup appears to have an altered level of consciousness, possibly from a concussion, or is he intoxicated? Does he have a medical condition like hypoglycemia? These were all handled on the first 911 call by Terry Robinson, which for audio quality reasons we're not playing here. But our reporting party seems well informed, and we're going to go to the second 911 call from Terry Robinson.
Clinton County 911, what is the location of your emergency?
Clark Howell and Forest Parkway. We had a call earlier, and it's been over like 20 minutes now, and no police or no ambulance have shown up at this location.
Okay, I just took a call. We already have someone on the way.
The reason why I'm asking that because the driver who caused the accident, I think he's impaired. Something's going on with him, and so the thing about we're trying to tell him to turn his vehicle off and smoke, and he's not following the command. So that's why I'm asking to see what is if he's moving his ears. He's going to drive off, man. He's driving off. He's driving off. Take a picture of the driving light. Take a picture quick. He's driving off. He's driving off.
Where's he going towards?
Yeah, he's heading towards Riverdale Road, Upper Riverdale Road. That's where he's heading.
What kind of vehicle is it? Is
He's
that
in
the
the red
Dakota?
Dakota. Get out the road, sir. Get out the road. Hurry up.
What's the tag number?
Red Dakota, front end damage to his red Dakota. Did you get a picture of the driver light? That's tag. Oh man, let's get out the road. Get out the road. Truck is still here. Driver truck is still here. So he's in a red Dakota. It's a 96 model, give or take 97 model. He's an older black gentleman, gray hair, blue shirt on, and front end damage, heavily front end damage in front. If I was in uniform, I would have picked a C, but I didn't. So,
Okay. Tell you what.
he's heading toward that area. If we get policemen up that way, I know traffic. I know there's an incident up that way. Hopefully, that there's another officers on that see him.
Give me 1 moment.
I know it's RHA 5933. There it was. RHA 593.
I got it. Robert Henry Adams 5933.
Yes. It's okay. She got it. It's all good. Yeah. Hopefully the lady in the Jeep was almost in the incident, so she turned around and she went after him. So she's going to take a picture of his vehicle and stuff. Can't even believe it. I knew he was something wrong with it, guy. I knew it. But he's not going to get far. This truck's going over deep. But I'm here with the driver of the truck, the semi-truck, and everything. So my numbers, you have it.
Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you.
All right.
So good job to Terry Robinson, but let's break down a couple of things. I'll just ask you questions, Drew, for the proper format of this. As a police officer arriving on the scene with someone with an altered level of consciousness, what do you think the chances are he's intoxicated, possibly not even on alcohol, but on drugs, or possibly having a diabetic emergency? That's something that happens quite often in the world, and people are often not thinking that. People often assume the worst of others. But what do you think, Drew?
I had this happen myself. There was this certain intersection, and there was we had received a few. It was a day shift, so it was kind of hard to get navigate around in traffic as it was. But there were a couple of people. He was in a pickup truck, as a matter of fact. There were a couple of people that had called in this impaired driver. They basically said, there's this guy, he's all over the road, and so finally it turned up that he ran into some hedges, off the side of the road. So, he drove over a sidewalk and ran into some hedges, and that's where I caught up with him, probably just after that happened. And I walked up and I'm like, oh, the thought, you talk about dispatch priming. I mean, it's not necessarily the dispatcher's fault, but all the people are calling saying this guy's impaired, and that's what they're witnessing. So then you're being relayed this information that you have an impaired driver that's eluding police basically because, nobody's in the right place at the right time. Then finally I run across this guy and I'm like, man, this, here's this drunk guy. And I look at his eyes and I'm like, something's not right here. I mean, he was slurring his words classically, like if he was drunk or whatever. And then he had a death grip on his steering wheel. And I can't even remember what I said to him. And he just started laughing, like laughing as in, it wasn't a maniacal laugh or anything. It was just this weird laugh. So I called for EMS to respond, and sure enough, it was a diabetic thing. I took the keys out of his ignition. We just waited, and sure enough, I mean, it was a diabetic thing. He wasn't impaired at all. He was having some type of diabetic, shock incident. They got him help, and we record his vehicle to wherever it needed to go, and he was snapped back into reality. These things happen, right? Impaired drivers we get calls all the time of impaired drivers who are literally just Uber Eats drivers looking down at their cell phones trying to find where they are. We get sometimes, back when people smoked, there'd be people that literally dropped lit cigarettes while they were driving, and they'd be all over the road. So just because somebody says it's an impaired driver doesn't mean it's an impaired driver. This is a little bit different because this is an accident, and they talk to this guy and they're having some kind of conversation with him. But if they're not thinking in terms of, well, this could be a medical emergency, then yeah, I see why they think that it's an impaired driver. The witness, the corrections deputy, from Department of Corrections, he was a phenomenal witness. If he hadn't remembered the tag and Hannah hadn't got the tag, we still would have identified that guy, because he's right. The guy's probably going to overheat at some point anyway. And but that does make a difference in the initial call, by the way, to 911. Are there any injuries? No, the guy seems impaired, but maybe you want to start thinking, well, is he impaired or is he having a medical emergency?
I think it's important to note that he wasn't injured at all. Apparently, he ran a red light and hit head on into the side of a semi, damaged his radiator to the point where he's got smoke or steam pouring out of there. They're advising he turn off the vehicle, which of course is always a good idea. He's not following any other directions to turn it off or whatever. So we have to allow 20 minutes in our minds, right? We call in 911 saying there's been a collision. Unfortunately, in a modern medium to large size city, 20 minutes for a response to a non-injury accident from a police officer is normal. It's very, very common that people will say, well, I dialed 911 quite a long time ago and there's still no one here. And there's almost a subtle accusation that the 911 dispatcher has not done their job, or the police don't care, or the system has failed, when the truth is that a traffic collision, although important and, for purposes of diverting traffic and preventing other accidents, is not usually a high priority thing. So we already have, but the other question I have for you, Drew, is if we believe this person's impaired, that would be the major difference, right, between dispatching an ambulance. If we say they're impaired, they're intoxicated, you almost would want a police officer there before an ambulance in case they get rowdy with the EMTs. If we knew for sure that this guy was having a diabetic emergency or concussion or other obvious medical problem, the ambulance probably wouldn't be taking 20 minutes to get there because we would call that an injury accident.
Right.
The ambulance
and you're right. We would probably accompany them anyway. I mean, like, that kind of changes the game a little bit. If EMS or the paramedics or somebody is responding because of a medical incident as the result of a traffic crash, especially, or related to a traffic crash, obviously we want to get there with them.
But also 20 minutes has gone by, as I said, and this one person involved, Hannah Payne, who was one of our first 911 callers to call it in, very relaxed, very calm. But now she's seeing, after 20 minutes of watching this guy, apparently drunk, no longer cooperating, leaving the scene. As you heard Terry Robinson say, that the driver of the Jeep is going to take off after him and make sure she gets a picture of the driver's license. Apparently, if someone there has already gotten it because they know that it's, Robert Henry Adam 5833 or whatever it is. So we have the driver's license number. We have this red Dodge Dakota, which, by the way, it's like a 96 Dakota, which is a really, really old pickup truck. You know how I know? I drive a 94 Dodge Dakota. It's the only one out there. I never see any other Dodge Dakotas anywhere. But it's also got heavy front end damage, right? So we're going to be able to identify it easily, even if we never have the license plate. This red Dodge Dakota with having driven head on into a semi, we're going to see that damage. The damage is actually something that we're going to use to identify this vehicle almost as easily or more so than the license plate. As this guy, Terry Robinson, said, and as you also picked up on, it's got a damaged radiator. This thing's not going to go far at all before it overheats and quits. So this guy's going to go down the road and this thing's going to stall out. So the situation is largely contained, but having waited for 20 minutes and having some kind of thoughts and feelings inside of hers will break down now. Hannah Payne decides to leave the scene, I believe in a Jeep, and pursue the suspect from the scene. So I'm going to go ahead and play her second 911 call.
911, what's the location of your emergency? Yes, ma'am. I'm on Clark Howell and Forest Parkway, the intersection. I actually called about 20 minutes ago for an accident, and no one has shown up yet. But I am under the impression that the guy that caused the accident, who ran the red light, is drunk. And he's gotten back in his car, and he's looking like he's trying to drive away. Okay, can you get his tag number? Hold on, he's driving away. It's a red Dodge Dakota. Give me 1 second, hold on. Okay, so he is going west, down Clark Howell, down Forest Parkway. Okay, so you couldn't get a tag number? No, but I'm catching up to him right now. Okay, ma'am, we actually do not want you to chase him. We just want you to be safe. And I understand. To chase him.
It's not safe to chase him. Okay, so let's stop and take stock of everything that has happened so far, because no one has been hurt so far as we know. There's no serious injuries or damage to life or anything. We have a traffic collision. We have some vehicles damaged, not the least of which is the suspect's, he is not getting away, as we talked about. But Hannah Payne, after waiting 20 minutes and seeing this guy standing around not following orders and then deciding he's not apparently not responsible for anything and he's going to leave the scene, she seems sort of incensed by that. Or she seems at least super committed to getting that driver's tag number, the driver's license number down there in Georgia. The 911 dispatcher said, we don't actually want you to chase her from the scene. What you're going to hear after this is the 911 dispatcher getting mad. And I'm going to just tell you what it's like for us when people decide to take the law into their own hands. It's super frustrating because we feel like that's what we're here to do. We have police officers who are professionally trained to interdict and deal with incidents just like this. Someone fleeing the scene, like, we know how to do this. I know how to coordinate people. If you're telling me that this guy's going westbound in a disabled vehicle on Forest Parkway, especially since I have already assigned a unit to handle this crash, possibly multiple units for traffic control or whatever. Advising them of that is very easy. They're going to catch up with them. This isn't it's not the same for police, where if you're staying there at the scene and this guy drives away, he just disappears. Police are able to coordinate things, look for things, find things. And as we said, a very, very old red Dodge Dakota pickup truck with heavy front end damage, we're going to locate this guy. And we've got the plate anyway. We've at least got a plate, a partial plate, or something that we can use. We've got a good description of the person involved. Lots of passersby there. There may be other people that can find it. She really has no reason to leave and go after him other than she's concerned about him possibly being drunk and causing more accidents. However, what is she going to do about that, Drew, as she's leaving the scene and following this guy, other than providing a updated location? There's really nothing else she can provide. But why we get mad about that is because we have a scene. It's all in one place. We want a police officer to go to one place, talk to the people there, collect evidence, do an investigation if necessary, particularly if this was a fatality. Obviously, it will be a crime scene and they're going to have to do a prolonged investigation. But we don't need someone going off and playing cowboy and trying to rope somebody fleeing the scene. It just becomes more irritating, more frustrating. And not only that, but when we tell you not to do something, we would appreciate it if you would trust us to do our jobs. And the idea that you're fleeing the scene of the accident as well, which you could be cited for leaving the scene, that you're taking this into your own own hands. The implication is that what we're doing is not enough and that we don't know what we're doing. Any thoughts before we go on, Drew?
No, that drives me insane too. It's just basically like, yeah, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And that's just about every comment you read on those stupid 911 call pages on social media. Like, these operators are idiots. They don't know what they're doing. But they're asking very specific and pointed questions, one, and two, giving very specific direction of what not to do, because just like you said, we do this 12 hours a day, sometimes 5 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. And then just, in the greater scheme of things, I don't know what it's like in Georgia. I could tell you in Florida, I'm reasonably certain that a hit and run involving property damage, which this would be, is a misdemeanor. It's not the crime of the century. A hit and run involving property damage with impairment, intoxication, that might bump up to a felony. It would definitely be a felony if it were leaving the scene of an accident with injury. And, we don't count the injury to the person that's driving that caused the injury necessarily, but because they might be driving to a hospital or something. But
right.
This is not the crime of the century, though, to the untrained eye, and it's understandable. And this is why I said a couple episodes ago, I get it. That's exactly why I joined, because I want to be able to solve the mystery. I want the thrill of the chase, so to speak, or whatever. But I went through the academy to do it, and I learned what a misdemeanor and a felony is, and I know what a crime is, and so if I were not trained, I would have to rely on the professionals to do that. And to do that, you would call 911 and take their advice. And if you don't take their advice, well, you're kind of taking things into your own hands at that point.
I think at the risk of spoiling something here, I think she does want to take the law in her own hands. And I think she does want to be maybe a wannabe police officer, but I'll let the audience make that determination for themselves. She says, I'm just going to get the tag number.
I'm just going to get the tag number, if nothing else. But I am going west down Forest Parkway.
All right, so this is kind of where things get a little sketchy too, in what she was doing when she later clarifies clearly what she's doing, but she's being told, don't chase. What she's responding with is, I'm not chasing, I'm just trying to catch up to get the tag number. So her intent, like what the 911 operator is trying to convey, is pull off to the side of the road and don't move. What she's trying to convey is, yeah, I hear you. I'm not going to chase. I'm not that stupid. But she's chasing him. She doesn't understand that that's what constitutes a chase, essentially. You staying in motion while they're in front of you in motion. That's what a chase is. So Anyway,
You also don't know how the suspect is going to respond to how all of a sudden someone chasing him from the scene. He might panic and start reacting in a way in which he's going to drive faster or more evasive, or he obviously has already been in an accident. If he feels like someone's chasing him down, he might drive more dangerously to get away, which Drew, I believe, take a shot, might be creating an exigency.
yeah.
Almost up to him. I mean, his radiator is busted and everything. So I honestly have no idea how he's driving the truck.
So she's, in a sense, creating her own prosecution here. She's saying all of the things that they're saying. Yeah, she's not thinking of that at the time. I guarantee it. Maybe
No,
she
she thinks she's won with the prosecution, though, Drew. If she thinks that she's a self-deputized agent of the law here, she feels like the dispatcher's on her side, the cops are on her side, and that the state's attorney's office is going to see it her way. She doesn't see herself as a third-party citizen getting involved in something that's clearly a police business. So, in a sense, she has just deputized herself, and that's why she's giving her direction of travel and all this information to the state, to the dispatcher, to the police.
Yeah, but not only direction of travel, she's saying specifically, I don't even know how he's driving right now. That car's going to die soon.
Yeah,
right.
So,
So
all the more reason to stop, turn around, return to the scene.
You're going to catch him.
The way that it is. It is a Georgia tag. License plate is RHA as in Apple 4859. Okay.
Was that the same tag he gave?
No, it was not.
So, if you can go back to that location where the incident happened, it's because someone is actually on the way to you guys now. Okay, well, there's a police officer there, but he is drunk. I'm sorry, but I'm here to tell you I'm not going to follow him because he is going to cause another accident. So I will stay behind him until an officer can get to us, but until then, I'm not moving.
So this is the moment she becomes a vigilante, though, Drew. She says, there's a police officer back there, but there's no police officer here, and so I'm here. And even though he's driving in a disabled vehicle that is surely overheating, I mean, it's already been turned on for 20 minutes without a radiator as it is. Now he's driving. I might get a little bit of cooling from the air passing over the manifold. Believe me, that's exactly how I keep my engine cool in my Dakota. But his vehicle is going to stall out here shortly, and he's not going to be able to hurt or run into anything. And not only that, but before he stops, because he's not going to stop for lights and sirens that she doesn't have, the only thing that is going to stop him is that breaking down engine. So what is her plan, right? He's drinking and driving. She says, I'm not going to discontinue pursuit as long as I believe that he's drunk, which she's also, by the way, not professional enough to make that determination. What's her plan, though, for interdicting, right? If you're chasing a drunk driver, you're going to light him up, lights and sirens, trying to get him to pull over and immediately stop the action. She has no lights and sirens. She's just waiting for him to either hit and kill someone else so that she can report on that in live in real time, or wait till the engine to stop. So what her plan is, I don't know, but I think we have to dissect this even deeper, Drew. This is not about what her plan is to interdict a crime. This is about her sense of right and wrong. She doesn't like that this guy ran a red light. She doesn't like that he's drunk. She probably really doesn't like that he didn't get hurt, that all these problems have happened, that he is not taking responsibility for it, that he continues to be intoxicated, that he's putting other people in danger, and she's mad about it. Right. So she's got this emotional response that most police officers don't have. Some of them do. Some of them are mad at the disregard that others have for other people's safety. But she's mostly at this point chasing because she's mad. And you can hear that. She says, I'm not going to chase this guy. This is the moment when she switches over to villain. Drew.
She says both, though. She says that she said, I'm not going to chase him, but I'm definitely not going to not follow him. Which there's a double negative in there somewhere, but it's essentially saying, look, I am not going to sneak into this baseball game, but I'm not going to go through the admission gate.
Yeah.
It's the same. You're saying the same thing. I don't know if she's not thinking that, or if she has a different definition than everybody else, or what. I mean, you're saying the same thing, but you're being told not to do that. And what you're essentially saying back is, well, I know better than you. Or maybe you don't understand, but this is what I'm trying to tell you. you got to listen. You're the one that's called 911 for the help, the advice, the whatever. You got to listen. It's not just I'm calling 911 for an ambulance and hanging up. There are questions that need to be answered, right? So I think that she's taken a huge risk, obviously. I don't know what her intent or her motive was, but you're right. It's the same as we would say in any road rage case where the second driver gets the shit beat out of them. Like, what were you going to do? What did you think was going to happen when they stopped?
I think that's fascinating that you call it road rage, Drew, because I think at some point it actually transitioned to that. I think she is mad. And I think that's what's happened. So let's see what the 911 dispatcher has to say in response to her insistence that she will follow from the scene.
No, that's what I want. I want you guys to go back to the location where it happened, and an officer will be out there momentarily, okay?
Nothing from her.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
Okay, so for those who are just listening, perhaps you're getting it better than the watchers, but the vehicles have stopped. She's engaged the suspect. She's yelling and screaming. You can hear this horn honking. So like someone's getting out of the car, they're pushing their elbow on the wheel, something like that's happening. The two are struggling, but she is screaming at the suspect now.
Ma'am! Yes. Ma'am! He just pulled the trigger of my gun in my hand while he was... Ma'am.
Okay. He just pulled the trigger of my gun while it was in my hand. Drew, do you want to stop here for a second and like break down what all this means in terms of what she said, what actually happened, and its implications in the courtroom?
I don't even know how to unpack that. We actually have the interrogation. I found the interrogation to be underwhelming. I get her. I get what she was saying in the interrogation, which we'll play at some point. But first of all, this is the first I'm hearing about a gun.
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
No, we had not heard that Hannah was armed at any point. She never said, I intend to perform essentially a felony stop and take him at gunpoint, which you have to wonder, right? We're missing context. Last we heard, she said, I intend to follow, get the tag number. Almost no time has passed at all, right? So what happened? Did the engine finally blow up and the guy coasted to a stop and he's already stopped? Because the amount of time that has transpired really hasn't allowed for that. So there's some sort of more proactive interdiction taking place here, which of course, if you're just taking this 911 call, you can't tell what the hell's going on. All of a sudden people are just screaming. And you heard a sound. Listener, I don't know if you heard it. I indicated a pop on the screen that was probably when the gunshot was fired. But she comes back to the phone saying, man down, shots fired, citizen officer involved, citizen arrest, gone terribly awry. She's indicated that this guy essentially is shot, but that he did it himself, I guess by struggling and getting his finger in the trigger guard and then pointing the barrel at himself and then depressing the trigger, which, Drew, I guess if we're doing Citizens Academy, just a reminder, if you're going to take someone at gunpoint, maybe don't get right in with a reactionary range to where they can grab your gun. Just a thought. I don't know, yeah. Drew, what do you think about that? If you wanted to give some vigilante citizens some advice on like the best way to apprehend someone at gunpoint, what would you be telling them?
Well, if you're gonna pull the gun out, I mean, your intent should probably be to use it. And if by chance it goes off, you can't all of a sudden say, Well, he used my gun to shoot himself to shoot himself while it was in my hand. I can see what, just based on, again, I've had the benefit of the interrogation, but she's saying that there was a struggle that took place, and there was a very clear struggle. Like you can see the signs of the struggle between the two of them through photographs and stuff. You haven't seen it yet. We'll show it to you. But what she's essentially saying is she apparently had her finger on the trigger, and in the process of them jostling back and forth with the gun, like he put his hand on the gun, he apparently stuck his hand behind the driver's seat and said, "Oh, I got something for you." And so she pulled this gun out at some point. Maybe the gun was already pulled out, but at any rate, he grabbed her wrist. He grabbed at her. Then at some point he grabbed the gun, and I don't know if he just like pulled it towards him, pull it towards himself, which, and if her finger was locked on the trigger, or if he stuffed his thumb into the trigger guard where her finger already was. I think that's kind of what she's saying. At any rate, you brought the gun to the gunfight.
Right.
I don't know like what you expected to happen here. And there is evidence that there was a struggle over the gun because the shell was never ejected. The casing was never ejected. It was one shot. It hit him in the abdomen and it killed him. But the casing was never ejected, which would indicate that it was probably what we call out of battery, or, it wasn't, in other words, the semi-automatic couldn't eject.
Couldn't eject it. Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't eject.
Because there was a hand over it. That makes sense. But again, just reflecting, how did we get here? A misdemeanor hit and run. And now she's decided that she's going to stop him with a gun in her hand. Just this situation doesn't call for it. This is not even necessarily what a police officer would be doing, Hannah. But let's see what the dispatcher has to say in response, because frankly, this should have never happened.
You were not supposed to follow him. He hit my car. Okay, you got the tag number. There's a police officer down the street. Tell them to come up here now. He pulled the trigger on my gun after he attacked me. Tell the police officer to turn around from the 285 entrance and come up here immediately.
So she massively made things worse. And now she has more advice for the dispatcher. You tell that police officer to get up here now. You tell him to get here immediately. Well, we had a police officer at the scene who would have been happy to talk to you and deal with it, and we would have had a police officer who could have caught up with him without getting involved into a gunfight. But you still have plenty of advice on the way that we should be handling this. Right. This is extremely frustrating. Here's the interesting thing to me as a 911 dispatcher. You could tell the anger has finally given way through the dam. Because this woman says someone's been shot. And this dispatcher's first response was, "I told you not to follow him."
You're not supposed to follow him.
That at this point is all the dispatcher just dumping on her, and which is something that I would probably do too. But it's not helpful, like in terms of resolving the incident, because what should the dispatcher say? And again, I'm not dumping on her. I actually
she did a great job.
She's my hero, actually. It's kind of how I feel. But what we should be saying is, how many times is he shot? Where is he shot at? Is he conscious, alert, and breathing? Is the bleeding under control? Is it safe to approach the scene? Does he have a weapon? These are all great questions for how you would resolve that. But she's so mad that she's been having to be dealing with this. Her first response is, "You should not have been following him. We told you to get the tag number. Why did it come to this?"
She didn't say, "We told you to get the tag number." She said, "And you already had the tag.
You got the tag number, right?" She said, "You already had everything we needed. Why did you get out and confront him with a gun?" And, at this point anyway, the ambulance is probably already, going to be sent. And this person's the one that shot him. So who knows if she's going to be giving good information here. But I just found it funny and kind of darkly hilarious that the first thing was like, "We told you not to do this."
Yeah, I mean, it's very sad because a man died over this. Like, he's got his own piece of the pie in this thing. I don't know if it was a true medical emergency or what, or if he was intoxicated. I don't know what the toxicology results were. I don't need to drag him through the mud. He died after a hit and run, but this might be the fire that you play with where you get burnt. Who knows? But you're right. from its genesis, it was a misdemeanor hit and run. And this is, it's going to go to the greater conversation I always have about chase policies, John. I know it's widely unpopular with the cops on the street. Nobody could ever provide data or evidence to prove that the lack of a chase policy or a chase policy that restricts officers from chasing somehow increases crime or it sends the wrong message. No one ever has the data to back that up. But
well,
I can definitely...
it's hard to pull like potential criminals, right? Like getting a whole bunch of people together at the local university on a Saturday morning and saying, hey, so you guys are all planning future felonies. I just want to let you know the police department's announced a new no chase policy. Does this affect your likelihood to commit a felony this weekend?
No, but you don't need to pull them to do that. You can track the crime rates. You could actually, when the chase policy goes into effect, you can match the crime rate and see if it went up or it went down. And there's no empirical evidence that suggests that a chase pursuit policy is the catalyst for crime rate rising or dropping. So my whole point is this. I don't think we're too far off topic here, but if we're such super cops, like it's just like, no, that's what we're out here to do. We're super cops and we're going to chase people and run them down and da-da-da-da-da. This is the civilian version of that, right? But if we're such super cops, why wouldn't we be able to solve this case without having to chase somebody? And it's the same thing. So we're saying that, I'm saying that we probably would have discovered who this hit and run driver was just based on the few clues that we have. If there were injuries and it were a felony, I guarantee we'd go back and pull video from every ATM and McDonald's on that stretch of highway. We'd put the truck video out on the news for someone to identify. We'd hit all the body shops in the area. There'd be an informant. Somebody would come forward because that's what we do as cops. We're investigators. It's not necessarily just chasing them down and arresting them right then and there. It's identifying who committed the crime. And that's one way of doing it. So if we're telling a citizen that that's how it could be done or how it should be done, I'm just trying to say that, this is exactly what I talk about with pursuit policies. Pursuits lead to an elevated level of adrenaline through everybody's body, to include the officer, to include the bad guy, makes them do things that they wouldn't normally do, just like this citizen did here. And she approached this guy with her gun out and a struggle ensued, and now a man's dead over it. Over what?
I guess I just have my little vision of, being 8 a.m. and a bunch of people there with neck and face tattoos, and they're all having black coffee and grocery store cookies, and there's breaks for 20 minutes every hour, and every single person that goes to the bathroom just out of boredom. And the conversation is really bad, and it's all about the weather and about how like prices on catalytic converters ain't what they used to be. And that's what I envision, Drew. And your straight rationalism, has destroyed another beautiful fantasy of mine yet again. I'll go ahead and continue the call.
Yeah, go for it.
And now he needs paramedics. I'm safe, but he ain't. Can you say? You say what happened? Okay, ma'am, where are you guys located now? Ma'am. I don't know. There's a police officer here now. Okay, speak with them. All right.
Dispatcher, happy to get off the call. Final thoughts on that was just her saying, I need paramedics here now. That's kind of a command that a police officer gives. She just says he needs paramedics. Asking witnesses to say, you saw what happened. I think she knows she's in a little bit over her head, but she wants someone to corroborate. Like, you saw that he was attacking me, right? Like, you stay for sure. And then the panic is setting in because all of a sudden, the dispatcher says, well, where are you now? I don't know. So she kind of goes from command control to panic all at once there. Drew, there's one last 911 call from a third-party witness of this engagement, kind of describes exactly how the vehicles were stopped. I'll leave it to you, gentleman's choice. Do you want me to play it, or would you want to go on to the next part?
No, play it.
Oh, by all means.
It'll play into the next part.
This is a 911 dispatcher show, so why not? But this comes in from a third party who has seen Hannah Payne perform a felony stop on a misdemeanor hit and run. How exactly did that go down?
In her Jeep. Oh.
It's a cop with a
transfer. Hold on, sweetheart. Call it by Forest Parkway and Riverdale Road.
She got him.
Okay.
The intersection of Phoenix Boulevard and Riverdale, right before the highway. Is this woman? It was like a merging lane, and then it was a merging lane, and then she like got impatient and went around him for no reason because it was coming traffic, and then he almost hit her because she did that. So he braked suddenly, but then she got mad and hopped out her car, and then she pulled out her gun and started screaming at him, and he was like, "What the heck?" And then she was like, "I was just doing," and she started hitting him. Her goes one way.
Okay, yeah, I have somebody on the line for that. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hold on 1 second here. So this is how it went down. If you understood that, is basically she's getting into a merging lane. They're changing highways. She's behind him. This is what we heard. This is what happened during that dead air of Hannah Payne's last call. She's accelerating, going around him and performing some sort of like a improvised pit maneuver where she slams on her brakes and he almost hits her from behind, which is one of the most dangerous things she could possibly do. She knows that he's drunk, knows that he's impaired. Is there any reason why she's expecting him to not do that? But he manages to step on the brakes. The third party caller says this is a road rage incident. She's mad that she was stuck behind him. She drives out in front of him, brake checks him, shows him what it's like to be behind a slow vehicle, comes all the way to a stop. But we're way past that because she gets out. She's got her gun handy, and she's going to give him a what for apparently driving slow. And she starts hitting him, I guess is what happened. I guess she's far enough away that what she sees is a physical engagement. But 911 dispatcher here is taking the call as a transfer. I guess they've gone far enough now to the calls being picked up by another PSAP. She says she gets out of the car with a gun and is approaching this guy. 911 dispatcher, who's already busy and has already been dealing with this, and there's already tons of calls on this, says, "Oh yeah, we've already got somebody headed out that way." She kind of missed the part with she got out with a gun. We need to know more about that. So as I tipped my hand there, as you heard the call back there, the 911 dispatcher is going to call back like, "Ooh, I didn't mean to hang up on you that quickly. We probably need more information from you." Drew?
Yeah. No, I agree with your assessment on that. I mean, she's so the one that called 911 is like, from her perspective, all she's seeing is a road rage incident. And she's blaming the girl for cutting him off and jumping out. She doesn't have the benefit of the other part of the story, but in a sense, that shows her distance from her distance to be able to tell accurately exactly what happened. Maybe not exactly, but how she perceived everything that happened without the benefit of being tainted by the actual story from the beginning. So we'll get Hannah's version, but we also get this other witness's version who said, "Oh no, she went around him, she cut him off," and that's what you see in all the body cam videos and all that. And that's why Hannah, by the way, says, "Yeah, he hit me because you went in front of him and he smashed on the gas. That's why he hit you." She wasn't in the car when that happened, from what I understand.
Gotcha.
But okay, so go ahead.
Well, it's again, the dispatchers are making all the prosecutor's case for you. You weren't supposed to chase him. You weren't supposed to be there. But let's go back to the 911 callback.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Are you still there?
Sorry, yes, I'm still here.
Okay, you said she pulled out a gun.
Yes.
Did she shoot the gun?
We heard a gunshot, and then one guy got out his car, and he was like, "Yo, we need an ambulance." Now I'm blocked in. The guy was like, "We need an ambulance." I don't know if she shot him or not. Sorry, dude. And now, did she shot him? She shot him.
Oh,
That
yep.
changed.
She for sure shot him. So that's all on that last call. We just needed the perspective to know that she engaged him, pulled him over essentially with a dangerous maneuver, pointed a gun at him, and then engaged in a tussle. So that's what happened on the final 911 call, Drew.
What a bizarre story. So we're winding down on part 1. This sets up the story perfectly. What we'll cover in part 2, I don't think we'll definitely cover the interrogation. I told you it was a flip of the coin or whether we want, but we need to hear what Hannah says about this whole thing. And so we'll play the interrogation. The audio is a little shoddy. I'm working on it. I have it ready to go, but it's just. And what we'll do from there is we'll take you to the trial, and we'll talk about exactly what happened, who said what in the trial. And, the foreshadowing, the outcome is that she, well, I don't want to tell you, and please don't Google it.
Yes, don't look into this for yourselves. Rely on us only. Wait 1 week. Do not spoil the surprise for yourself.
Or 2. Yeah, you are hereby sequestered from Googling anything about the Hannah Payne incident or her guilt or innocence, or not guilt, or whether she was charged even. Don't even look at that.
We don't even know at this point. It's just
we don't even know she fired the gun. So we don't even know if she had a gun. Yeah.
There's no way to look into it, even though if you rewind to the beginning of the episode, you said that she was tried and convicted. And I guess I would also say this: if you're interested in this case enough, to the point where you go out and you defy Drew's sequestration order, and you Google it for yourself, and you watch all these videos, all these great sources, don't spoil it for anyone. Don't come back. Don't watch the show again. We definitely don't want you back here. So
you can come back. Just don't spoil it in advance. We will find you in contempt of comm center if you do that.
Yes, contempt of comm center. That has to be a T-shirt, by the way.
Look, we just want to spread the word. We want to do right by the dispatchers, and I'll close it with this. I went into a little rant about chase policies and whatnot. Let's talk about response times real quick if you're still with us. Their complaint was, we've been sitting on the side of the road for 20 minutes and nobody has showed up. I just want to leave you with this question, and please answer in the comments. Is this a matter of being short-staffed because of the defund movement that you have to sit around and wait for 20 minutes? Or is it that we're too comfortable as a society with calling law enforcement for every little thing? So if there's a dog barking, if the neighbor has cut down the branches of your tree of his tree over your fence, and you need a law enforcement officer to come out and have a discussion with your neighbor about that, don't you think that that's going to have a residual effect to have somebody sitting on the side of the road waiting for 20 minutes for the hit and run investigation, which escalates into Hannah chasing the guy down and having him shoot himself with her own gun in her own hand while her finger is on her own trigger? Just think about it. Yeah. I think that's all I got, John.
Yeah, leave us a comment. We should tell people to do that at the beginning of the show.
Oh, yeah, we should, because nobody is listening right now.
Well, just like, hey, here's your challenge question as we bring you this case. We should do that next time.